Hey guys, Tez here, and there's some more Monster Hunter gameplay for you. As you can see on the screen, or you could a second ago, there was 3 of us that just left the guild hall, and that is because it's me, my brother, and one of my friends called Dan. And yeah, so this quest is, sorry, I had to cough. This quest is a dual Diablos, G rank, and I'm using dual swords. Now there's one of them there, and what we tend to do when we're fighting dual monsters is that we will leave one alone, focus on one, try and keep them split up, and then when we've finished one, then we'll move on to the next. But if they do meet in the previous titles, in like Monster Hunter Unite, then we'd just have to work around that, and we'd try and fight through it, and obviously fight them both in the same area. But in this, you can use dung bombs to separate them. So if you throw a dung bomb at one of the big monsters, whichever you're fighting, then it will leave the area quite quickly, and then it will go about its thing, and it will give you plenty of time to fight on the original monster that you wanted to. So I don't think we actually do that in this quest, because we kill these quite quickly, so they never really meet up. But yeah, so this quest was kind of, from what I can remember, because we actually played this months ago, but, well, I say months ago, it's about a month ago now, but from what I can remember, this quest was done fairly quickly, about 16 minutes to kill 2 G rank Diablos, although in dual quests the monsters are weaker, because obviously there's 2 of them, whereas if you were fighting 2 G rank Diablos, it would probably take you 15 minutes to kill one, and 15 minutes to kill the other. So obviously they reduced the health, so it didn't take as long. But I cut out a lot of the second Diablos fight, because it is literally exactly the same as what we're doing now, and I'm not very good at it, so I do get hit quite a lot. Whereas you can probably look on YouTube somewhere and see people using no armor, have like really low health on purpose, so that they get this thing called adrenaline. And basically adrenaline is when your health goes below a certain percent, you get a massive attack increase, and people usually do that quite a lot on large monsters like elder dragons, because the elder dragons are really powerful. So if you get hit, it with no armor, it is literally a one-hit kill. So it kind of shows that their skill at the game is very high. So that's why people do that, but I am nowhere near that good enough, so I just used my armor and lots and lots of potions. But like I said, this quest didn't go too well. I normally never use dual swords on Diablos. In Unite, I would tend to use a longsword, but I don't know, I started using these dual swords because I think they're really cool. They're Devil Joe dual swords, and they're kind of an end game weapon, like quite high power and quite a lot of dragon element, which is something else I should probably talk about at some point. But in this one, I was simply using it because both Diablos is weak to dragon element, whereas maybe one of them is a little bit weak to fire, but the other one's quite strong to fire, because obviously they're opposing, one's a normal Diablos and the other one's black Diablos. So one might be strong against something and the other one might be weak to it, so you don't want to bring that weapon, because it's not going to be very effective against one of them, but it will be against the other. So you have to kind of find a weapon in the middle. Always a raw damage weapon, so basically a weapon that's strong in power but doesn't have any element. That's good regardless, but element is definitely something that is useful to have, because it gives you like that extra bit of damage done to the monster every attack. So if you can find a element that is good against all of them, then that's definitely something that is a good thing to use. Like, there's elements that do direct damage to the monster, and there's elements that don't do direct damage, but they kind of, it's a status element. So by that I'm talking about, like, I think Dan here is using a sword and shield, and it has poison element, and basically instead of, well, that one does direct damage, but instead of doing elemental damage, it does status damage or something. So he can hit this monster with, say, 10 hits, and he'll do poison damage on 6 of them, and you won't actually do the poison damage then. You have to poison the monster, and then when you've poisoned the monster, over time you gradually take life out of it. Like, I don't know how quick it is, like every 5 seconds or something, you'll take away, say, 7 or 8 hit points from it, and that happens over time, and then over time that wears off, and then that monster will build up its poison resistance, and then it will take longer to poison it the next time, and so on. So there's that status attack, and there's also one that is like a stun. So you do attacks and you will do like this flash of yellow element, and that's like paralyze, and then when you've paralyzed the monster, it will like literally just stand still because it's paralyzed, obviously. And right there we captured it because it was weak. I don't know if you noticed, the paintball thingy was flashing white, and that's an armor skill, so only I was able to see that because of my armor. So we captured it and got that one out of the way with. And I've cut out half of this Black Diablos fight. We were fighting it in some other area before, just so the video is not too long and you don't get bored. But yeah, I was talking about paralyze, and the same with poison. Say you do 10 hits and maybe 4 or 5 of them are paralyzed, and then eventually after you get enough paralyzed hits in, then the monster will be paralyzed and it will kind of like spaz out a little bit and stand still, which gives you plenty of time to get off a bunch of like attacks. So typically weapons that do status or element attacks, they won't do as much raw damage because obviously they have the element, and then with that element, when that element actually takes place, like poison, you're doing damage without even having to hit it. So that's where it gains back that reduction in raw damage. And with I've forgotten the word. What is the word? Paralyzed weapons. The time that it takes you to paralyze it, so the amount of damage you're losing out per hit, maybe it's like 15 raw damage over like my weapon. When it's paralyzed, it won't move, so you have all that time to get your hits back in to kind of basically rectify the reason of having lower damage but having the paralyze effect. So it's kind of half a dozen of one and 6 to the other, so it's whatever your preference is. I stick to raw damage or elements that do direct damage to it rather than like status effects such as poison and paralyze. There's also another one that is sleep, and I think those are the only 3. And sleep is essentially what it kind of sounds like to be. Basically you hit the monster, and over say 10 hits you'll put 4 sleep hits on it, and eventually that monster will fall asleep, and then when it's asleep, if you hit it whilst it's asleep, it will instantly get back up. So I tend not to use sleep weapons because it's kind of hard to, sometimes it's hard to realize when the monster's asleep, so you might accidentally wake it up, and that's like a waste of you putting it to sleep. Whereas normally if you use a sleep weapon, then you tend to look out for when it falls asleep. You can then like regroup, heal, sharpen, combine if you need to combine for things. Like you can put down traps so that when you wake it up, it might fall in a trap instantly and then you can hit it, or you can sleep bomb it. Now sleep bombing is effective if you're in a party, I think, because if more people use sleep weapons, then it will fall asleep more and then you can bomb it more. But basically you put it to sleep, then you throw out some massive barrel bombs, set them off, and that does a chunk of damage to it. But I wasn't really going to talk about elements, I kind of just rolled into it. I was going to talk a bit about Diablos, but as you can see, the quest is over and now it's just the mindless fun of attacking each other and helpless little monsters that are in the areas whilst we are. So that's pretty much the end of the quest. As always, I would leave what I get in from the quest in the rewards so people can see. Not that you can read Japanese, that the icons kind of show what they are. So I can tell from there I got some carapaces, some shells, and some horns, and that red thing, which I couldn't figure out what it was. But I think it's something rare. So thanks for watching, and I will speak to you next time.